Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is a 22nd Street barbell athlete. Today's guest is Zach Severin. Zach, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me.
For sure. So, Zach, we're just going to jump right into what I like to call the warm-up questions. I've got 4 questions I like to ask all of my guests just to kind of get the conversational ball rolling, so to speak. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have a specific routine or ritual you like to stick to on most mornings?
I kind of just get up and I'm up early, like, 4:20. So really I just get up and I start breakfast and let the dogs out and say a little prayer to myself to get myself going. So, nothing too spectacular. I'm at work at 6. So, but really it's just, it kind of sounds silly, but just like getting my food in right away and kind of just getting woke up for the day and,
Pretty basic and simple, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now I want to touch on the breakfast, right? Because we're going to get into the powerlifting. We're going to get into the 1,003 pound squat here later on. But for somebody as competitive as you are, in kind of the weight class that you compete in, what does that breakfast look like, and how important is it for you just overall throughout the day to make sure you're getting enough calories and protein and food in?
So the first meal of the day is probably the most important, only because your body's been kind of fasting for 8 hours, depending on how long you were asleep and all that. So I do 4 eggs, some milk, and depending on what season I'm in, sometimes I just eat that, like just kind of a light breakfast. And but like when I was training for that 1,000 pound squat, or whenever I'm doing a contest and I'm trying to like push my body weight up, I could add in like donuts or whatever kind of deal, and really that's only for like a few weeks, but I need just that added calories, those added, to like kind of push myself up and help the recovery, all those things. But really first thing in the morning, the eggs, and, I might throw some ham in there or whatever, just for some flavor, but just need to get the protein right away in the morning. So
for sure. Now, for you specifically, Zach, when it comes to like kind of like the nutrition side of things, are you just kind of eating for the sake of like satiety, or are you, do you kind of have like a specific eating regimen or routine that you have, or is it just kind of like just get calories in, get protein in, just kind of go with the flow? How does that work for you specifically?
Yeah, so I typically try to eat like every 2 hours, and I don't really follow a specific diet of any sort, but I generally, it's just like some sort of meat and some sort of carb, and I'm not like, about 8-10 ounces. Again, it kind of depends on, where I'm at. If I'm training the meat, it's like pretty much all food. If I'm kind of in an off season, I might just do like a shake for my second meal and like maybe my 6th meal, just depending. Because I'm trying to just like bring my body weight back down from being kind of bloated in a sense, so.
Sure. Yep.
But yeah, basically just meat, potato, rice, and then, I'll cheat on the weekends, or necessarily cheat, but, I'll have a pizza or Chinese food or whatever, go out with the wife, or, I'm not too like, I'm basically just trying to be healthy, so as long as I'm staying healthy and not eating just fast food all the time is.
For sure. And I think kind of I think that there's been a shift within powerlifting over the last maybe 5 to 10 years in terms of like kind of like the diet side of things. Do you notice like when you maybe are getting fewer calories or more calories, or maybe higher quality food over that less quality food? Can you tell a difference just through the food you're eating and kind of like your nutrition levels? Can you tell like the difference in your performance like within the gym?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but I wouldn't do it all the time, but like closer to a meet, the more cheat meals I have, it almost you feel stronger because you're getting like and I know probably not everybody agrees with this, but anytime you're like restricting anything, you're going to restrict your body's strength, right? So like if you're restricting carbs, you're restricting fats. So like rule of thumb for me is I don't restrict anything, 8 weeks out from meat, not saying that I'm eating McDonald's and double quarter pounders, but and then kind of like in the off season when I pull back the calories and I kind of lose that weight, like even today I've lost over 10 pounds already since the meet. I wouldn't be able to squat 1,000 pounds today, or it would take me another to kind of like push that body weight back up and kind of get back prepped for something like that, because that added body weight does help.
For sure. Awesome. All right. So Zach, the second question that I have for you pertaining to the warm-up questions, and if there's more than one on these next 3 questions, feel free to share. There's
Okay.
no limit or anything like that, but do you have a favorite quote, mantra, or word?
So we'll kind of get into my backstory in a little bit, but I go to Alcoholics Anonymous, but a huge quote in AA is one day at a time. You know what I mean? And I really kind of live like that. I live like that in the gym. I live like that, in life, and I just kind of take it. Not that I'm not looking towards the future, but I just take what's in front of me, at that moment, and I'm not too worried about like what's going to happen. And you can go as far as taking that to the gym, as far as like when I get there and I'm hitting a set and it's just not feeling right. One day at a time, man. I'll just come back and do it tomorrow. I've been at the gym for 10 minutes, but like, dude, it's not today, and I just leave.
For sure. I actually have one day at a time. I have one day tattooed on my front shin and people are like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, because that's how I live my life, one day at a time. And I got that actually when I was 19. And that's like one of my, if you want to call it a mantra or a phrase or what have you, quote, like that's been huge in my life, because like, especially once you kind of start going to higher levels within life, whether that's business or, competing, what have you, like there can be so much going on, and there can be so much busyness and so much craziness and chaos at times. And a lot of that is internal, right? Like there's so many thoughts, there's so much that's, going on inside of us. Like for me, like it's very helpful just to kind of like say, okay, like literally, like I got to focus on this day today, because if I don't focus on today, if I don't make it through today, like I'm not going to be able to accomplish anything tomorrow, right? Like today needs to happen, and we need to win today so that we can accomplish tomorrow or win tomorrow, right? So
I love
that definitely one day at a time resonates huge with me, and it's a powerful quote. It's a powerful philosophy. It's a powerful way to live life if you can really tap into it, right?
Right.
So,
and it's short, sweet, and to the point. You know what I mean? Which I love too.
Absolutely.
So many folks are just so like, I'm like, how am I supposed to just like get that out, in one bit? I'd almost have to write it down and read it every day, which is totally cool too. But one day at a time, man, it's easier, hit home. And so
simple, right? Just keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the third question in regards to the warm-up questions here, Zach, is there a book or podcast that has been especially impactful in your life?
So I did mention that I'm in AA. So like, I read quite a bit out of that book, and it's a very like spiritual book. And I get a lot out of it. And then, as far as other books, I've been a big fan of like, fantasy and Lord of the Rings and that type of stuff. But, as far as podcasts, I'm not like a huge podcast guy. If I was going to, I mean, I do listen to some Joe Rogan and stuff like that, but.
Awesome. All right. So to wrap up the warm-up questions here, and again, if there's more than one, feel free to share. But
Sure.
What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Man, I kind of got like, to some people would think, I've got a little bit of a story or whatever. And honestly, I don't know if I would change a whole lot, or I would give myself a whole lot of advice because it really did make me the man that I am today. So I'd probably just tell myself to stay the course. If I was going to change maybe anything, I would say take that football scholarship, so, but really, I don't know how that would work out either. So, it just stay the course, man. Just keep on going. And in the end, it works out. And I got a great life today. So I really can't complain as far as where I wouldn't really want to change a whole lot, so.
For sure. All right. Excellent. So you've kind of alluded to your backstory a little bit, and that's like a huge part of this podcast, and something that I really love about just the way that we kind of have these podcast conversations on the 127 Fit podcast, because we kind of get into the backstory of the guests, and I just love kind of hearing where my guests were, and then we kind of work our way up to present day, because who we are today in large part is because of our past. So if you don't mind sharing, Zach, where were you born? Kind of just talk a little bit about like the childhood before we kind of get into, the high school, college age years. Talk about the childhood. So where did you grow up? Siblings? Were you involved in sports? Were you involved in any other extracurricular activities? Was there anything kind of profound, kind of in those younger childhood years that really impacted you? And then we'll kind of work our way up to high school and post high school.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I was born in Des Moines. I've lived in Des Moines pretty much all my life. I had great parents. I didn't want for nothing. I was spoiled as a kid. One thing that was really impactful to me too, when I was younger, both of my parents, they worked their butts off to give us everything we wanted, and I've seen that, and I kind of try to live like that now, or they've just instilled that into me. My dad was a lineman for 30 years, so that's kind of like carried over to me, working with my hands and that type of deal. I was also in sports at a very young age. I played football and baseball pretty much from when I could walk. My dad was very big into athletics and sports when he was younger, so he definitely pushed me into that. And, I loved every second of it. I was never the greatest in school, maybe not the best guy socially, learning to like talk to people and stuff like that. But when I would get out on a field, I was always a little bit faster and a little bit stronger than everybody else, and so I kind of like took that into my teens, and I ran track, and played football and baseball up until I did end up quitting baseball to wrestle when I was a freshman in high school. But because I tried off wrestling, and I just decided that was for me. I liked wrestling better than spending my summers playing baseball, and so a lot of that stuff, I learned that hard work from my parents, and it all just kind of carried into that. I was always the guy that up until maybe like my later teens, I was always the guy that was in the gym in the morning, and then I'd go to school and we'd have football or wrestling after, and that type of deal. And I carried that work ethic with me all the way until, I was maybe like, a junior or senior in high school, and then, other parts of my story kind of come in. But, my younger years were just full, I really didn't want for nothing. My parents did split up, and they both have got remarried to great people. And I think that's kind of almost a normal thing nowadays, kind of, and so, I was kind of lucky that it all kind of worked out, and I basically had two dads and two moms kind of deal, and I was very lucky as a kid. I grew up really well, and I was pushed into things that maybe at the time I didn't like, but then as soon as I realized, like, I think my dad realized first, like, you're going to excel at some of these things that I'm pushing you into. And then I ended up just being like, man, yeah, I love playing football, and I love, all these different sports that I'm doing. And I didn't necessarily like the school side of things all too much, but I was a great athlete. And so.
Awesome. Now,
Yeah.
you kind of alluded a little bit to kind of like the social side of things. Was it kind of hard for you when you were younger to connect with people? Were you kind of introverted, kind of keep to yourself, or what did that kind of look like at those younger years?
Yeah, man. So when I was younger, um, I was almost like, I wouldn't say bullied, but I was always maybe a little, a step behind socially, or um, I wouldn't say like, mentally, but like I was always kind of a step behind, it seemed like. So like bullied maybe not be the right word, but I definitely was kind of like, um, kind of a loner in my early years until I started making friends on the football team and stuff like that. But, I think I carry a lot of that kind of stuff with me to today, trying to just be as humble as I can. Um, and it doesn't matter if you have 100 pounds on the bar or 1,000. I just try to treat everybody the same. Um, because I know that feeling of kind of being like pushed in a corner and almost feeling like you want to say things, but you just don't know how to say it. And I'm lucky that a lot of that kind of, when I did started playing sports heavily and I made a lot of friends, a lot of that kind of left me, but also I remember that feeling. So I was always like, really like, I would always try to push people and make people, the best they can be playing football or wrestling or whatever.
For sure.
It carries into my later life. Even now, it doesn't matter. I see a brand new person at the gym, I'm going to treat them exactly the same as, maybe Luke over here squatting 700 pounds, so.
Absolutely. So what did, and then we'll kind of transition out of high school, but, I think for a lot of us, it's fair to say, I grew up in a small town in Northwest Iowa. And I think especially here in the Midwest and just, it's pretty easy to say, even in the United States, wherever you grew up, sports is a huge part of a lot of our upbringing. So what did sports kind of give you? What did sports kind of do for you? In those younger years, once you started to kind of basically engross yourself in them.
Yeah. So when I really got into football and I met the group of guys that were always gonna, kind of be there, that I'm realizing like I'm gonna be playing football with these guys probably like the next 8 years. You're like playing Pee Wee and all this stuff. And I met a lot of great guys and a lot of, and some of them I'm still friends with today, but it kind of like brought me out of that, like almost like social disorder or something that I had. And, I just realized that, it's a weird kind of thought, but I realized when you step on a football field or a wrestling mat and you may be like one of the best on the team, and I hate saying that because I don't want to feel like I'm like boasting or nothing, but like, when you're the fastest and the strongest guy out there, you realize you got, 30 other guys or whatever looking up to you, and like there's a lot of like power in that. And it really could like kind of go both ways, like I could just be a total dick and treat people like some sort of way and get this huge ego and or I could just be humble and be the person that be a better person than maybe I felt some people were bullied me or whatever when I was younger, so it kind of brought me out of that and kind of brought me into, like I have a great group of friends and and a lot of that kind of, really like changed my life for the better. I knew what like hard work was going to get me. And the group of friends is, they kind of like saved my life in a way, as far as, kind of bringing me out of that social anxiety type deal that I was kind of going through in my younger years. With football though, I kind of like broke my hand in football, and that's kind of like where my other, story starts. But along with like all those friends that I had, another thing that kind of brought me, out of that social anxiety. I mean, we like to party, and we would play these games and we would go and party afterwards, and we'd find the house of the parents that are out of town or whatever. And those same guys, we would play football, we would wrestle, we would do this or that. And I mean, we were sneaking alcohol into school and all those same deals. And we were like, there's maybe 5 of us or whatever. And we would, at the same time that I'm like, getting rid of all this social anxiety, through like being with these guys, I'm like, starting off on another destructive path, that I didn't realize till, I was 22, that like, holy crap, like it's gone so far. And, I'm alone, sitting in this house, sitting in a room, just alone, So,
Yeah. So let's kind of, since we're there, let's transition to that. And I do want you to touch on, because you mentioned kind of earlier in our conversation something about like I think a football scholarship or something, you alluded to that. So let's talk about, what you were thinking about. Let's just, because we all have, especially when we're teenagers, we're getting ready to graduate from high school, like, you got to start thinking about what's next. And a lot of people go off to college. A lot of people don't. It doesn't matter. But what were your thoughts, Zach, kind of like towards the end of high school? What were you planning on doing? And then just take that and let's just kind of unpack that story of just kind of where you found yourself, like you said, in that room all alone.
Okay. Yeah. So, I was extremely good at football. I was big, I was fast, I was strong. I think I ran like a 4.6 40 at like 220 pounds my senior year, and for a high schooler, that's probably, average now. But at the time, like it was like, I felt like that was really good, and kind of coming from this like little small school, I had kind of a few offers to like JUCO colleges, Grandview, and a couple of the other ones, but something else was going on at the same time, where I broke my hand probably like the second game my senior year, and they gave me painkillers to help, because I was like, I want to continue to play. I don't care how you got to do it. But really, that's not like an excuse, because I was already kind of like smoking weed and drinking and doing other things. And that just kind of like compounded, just in the end, it was like the opiates that I really liked. I had this choice to make, I'm like 18, football's over. And do I want to go play for like one of these colleges? I had a recruiter like come to high school and like pull me out of class for co-college or somewhere. And he's like, I want to give you a full ride. I want you to play here. If you do well enough, other bigger colleges look at you and stuff like that. And, I had a choice to make, do I want to go play for one of these colleges, or do I want to keep partying, and ultimately, like, I was already addicted to drugs and alcohol. So I decided that I was going to just keep partying and doing these things. And it just progressively got worse. And I, through the years, that group of friends that I had, I'm taking all these pills and I'm drinking and I'm like sneaking it into high school. And a lot of those guys are like, man, that stuff's not okay. You know what I mean? And I'm over here like, like, you're not going to stop me from doing it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And we graduate high school and I just keep doing it. And it just gets worse, man. Like I'm seeking like street drugs now and like doing, smoking pills off foil and stuff like that. And eventually, like, through those years, there's really nothing in my life that like really happens that's really outstanding besides, one day I'm sitting in this room just alone and I can't stop doing heroin. I can't stop doing meth and drinking. And and I just realized like, I'm sitting at that crossroads again, like college or partying kind of deal. But this time it was like, do I want to die or do I want to do I want to live, I went out to California with a friend of mine to try to get sober, and that failed miserably. That was like one of the worst ideas I ever had, I just came back and mentally, like, I'm like checked out now. Like, all this like stuff is going on, and I can't stop doing drugs, and I'm like mentally checked out, and here I am, like, I'm sitting in this car, and I'm contemplating, like, just like killing myself, you know what I mean, like just kind of being done with it, and I'm like, you have like that flash of your life where I was like, one of the, a good football player, and now I'm like, just sitting in this car, ready to check out, I made a decision to go ahead and just like tell my mom what was going on, and at that point, I wasn't home much. I'd previously said that my dad was a lineman, and he had retired and moved to Arizona, and he was living a great life, and I could sit here and say, oh, is this person's fault and that person's fault, but it really wasn't. It wasn't any of those people's fault. Like, up until that point, I was blaming everybody. Like, this is their fault. This is their fault. And now I'm realizing, like, this is just me, man. And I'm alone. And I'm back to that little kid. I'm that little boy in a man's body now. Like, I'm just alone, and I'm scared, and I'm bullying myself all over again. It doesn't take anybody else to do it now. And I had called my mom, and I was just like, I need help. I need help. And a friend of mine's mom was the head mental health counselor at the treatment center I went to, and I called her, and she said, give me 10 minutes, I'll call you back. And she was just like, hey, if you can be down here in an hour, you can have a bed, and I was just like, let's do it. I need help. I need to quit doing this. So yeah, I went to treatment, and that was July 1st of 2014, and it was probably the best decision I ever made, obviously, or else I definitely wouldn't be here today. So
just, I mean, a couple of things I kind of want to just, dig a little bit deeper on, or
yeah.
discuss a little bit more in what you just shared. So like once you kind of like got into the darkness of the partying and the drugs and all that, like, just on the day to day, did you like kind of get to the point, cause and I only know this stuff from just like, hearing other people talk about it, but did you just kind of get to that point, Zach, where literally you were living for kind of like that next hit, or that next drug that you were trying to find? Was that kind of like the life that you, or the cycle that you kind of got into at some point in your life?
Oh, definitely. I mean, definitely. It was just every day you'd wake up, and the goal is just to what am I going to do that day? Who am I going to hurt or steal from or whatever to get my next fix? And that was it. Like, literally for like 2 years, that's like how I lived, and it was miserable, but yeah, you were just living to find your next hit,
And then kind of when you were getting closer to that point of, like July 1st, 2014, when you went into that treatment center, kind of like, a short time before that, and then you talked about wanting to just, end your life and things like that. Were those, and I'm asking this stuff because this is real life, right? Like, there's going to be people that listen to this that maybe are going through what you've been through currently, or maybe they have just kind of broken through all that like you did, or maybe they're sitting in a treatment center like you were, and they're going to be listening to this. And that's why I just kind of want to ask some of these questions. But
Sure.
the like kind of like the suicidal type of things, because I know there's a lot of people that struggle with that. And there was actually a point in time, when I was in college, for various reasons, that I started having suicidal thoughts, and there was just a lot of struggle and darkness in my life. But what was that, like, the suicidal thoughts and just kind of thinking about ending your life? Was that something that just kind of hit you one day, or was that something, at some point throughout those years of drug abuse that were those thoughts kind of always there at some point?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say for like the last 3 to 6 months, definitely. I was getting to the point where I was doing enough heroin. I was like, maybe this will be the one that I won't wake up from. And I was like totally okay with that. I got to the point where I was just like, I'm okay if I don't wake up from this, from this shot or whatever. And so yeah, and it was like that for at least 3 months. I remember sitting in my car with another guy that when we were getting high and we just got high or whatever, and I pulled out this gun and I was just like, this is gonna be what I take my life with. And he was just like what? And it's like kind of a really like surreal thing to think about, like that you've done or you've been to that place that you tell yourself like there's no help for me, like there's no help out there, like nobody can help me, so this is the only way out. And whether it's because I've been to dozens of treatment centers and dozens of places now, and told my story and talked to people, and it's a weird thing that you can like talk yourself into that, whether you're a drug addict or or you've been abused or this or that, whatever the situation is, that you can like talk yourself into like there's no help for me out there. And all as it took was one person to be like, yeah, if you can come down here in an hour, I can help you. Like I can get you help. Just talk to me. Just tell me like how you feel. And it's just a weird thought to think like you get so built up in your head that you can't do it. Like this is it. This is the only path that I have. There is no more crossroads. Like this is the only one, that you have. And there's always help out there for somebody. I've seen so many people come back from the brink of like a mental, breakdown, whether I said, whether it's from drug addiction or from something else that just happened in their life. There's always help for people out there, and I just didn't think that there was until someone told me like, yes, I can help you.
For sure. So I wanna let's transition into kind of like the help that you got. So you had this connection through your mom and you went to this treatment center. Just kind of talk about that experience and talk about the healing process and the breakthrough process and just this whole process that you had to go through to kind of catapult forward within your life.
Sure. So I checked into treatment, and like day one, like I took like a handful of pills and like drank it down with a beer and like went into treatment, and I'm doing like my intake, and they're just like, are you gonna be all right? And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. But anyway, I look at it now and it's just kind of funny. You're like walking into treatment, but you got to make sure you're loaded to go in there. And but after like all that settled, and I had to go through like a week of withdrawal, which was horrible. Like I never want to do that again. And they were like kind of offering me Suboxone and stuff like that, which is like a taper down from opiates. And I kind of refused that stuff. I was like, I just kind of want to do it. Like, I want to get done. I'm not going to go anywhere, because it was an open door policy at this treatment center. You are inpatient, so you can't leave. But as soon as you do leave, your treatment's done. So like I was like, I'm not going to leave, because they were worried I was going to leave because I was, feeling crappy, and I was just like, I'm not going to leave. Just like, bear with me. After I got through that, and we did a lot of like, you end up doing like a lot of like cause and effect, like, because when you're doing it, when like I'm just sitting alone all the time and I'm just like getting high or with other drug addicts, you're like, I'm not really hurting anybody. You know what I mean? I'm not hurting anybody. Like nobody's feeling my pain, but when you're doing these like cause and effects, like how I hurt these people, and I'm sitting in this treatment center and I'm just like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Or holy crap, my mom and my sister and my dad and all these people, and it's just, you're like, man, I heard all these people and I'm not even like realizing it, until this treatment center's like, or until this counselor's like, you got to look at it this way, and I was like, holy, and all these emotions are coming back to me because, the drugs just suppress all your emotions and I just have this feeling like, I'm crying and all these things are happening to me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done, like I always kind of thought like when I got out of there, like I cleaned myself up, good to go. Maybe I could get out and just like have a beer and whatever, and I'm just like realizing in this treatment center, like, I'm just never going to be able to do those things again, and that's where the 1 day at a time kind of thing comes from. And sometimes it's 1 minute at a time or, 1 hour at a time, especially in those like early, like that first year, like any little thing, you're just like, oh, this would have caused me to just go get high. So I might as well. Then you just make a phone call and you're like, no, don't do that. But, so then I get out of treatment and I'm like, so when I went into treatment, I weighed 100. So my high school wrestling weight was like 215. I wrestled 215. I cut down from about 220 to 215. I checked into treatment at 191 pounds. And by the time I had left in 20 days, I had gained a pound a day for the 20 days. So I weighed like 211 as soon as I left there, And so after like maybe 30 days to 2 months, my body's like coming back. I'm like, 220, 230 again or whatever. And so I started working out, and I'm going to AA and I get the sponsor and the and I'm working steps and all that stuff. And I tell you what, man, like, my life like drastically changed from that point,
So let's before we transition out of the treatment center, what
Mhm.
and I know we kind of touched on the 1 day at a time thing, but what do you think was like a really impactful or powerful moment or lesson learned or like kind of like an eye-opening thing that happened within that treatment center to where it's like, okay, like, I'm done with this life. I'm done with all this, the drugs and the alcohol. Like I don't want this anymore. Was there like a certain situation or was there something that a counselor said, or was there experience that you had within treatment that kind of got you to that awakening moment where you're like, all right, I'm done and I'm moving forward with my life. I'm going to be a different person from here on out.
Yeah, 100%. Probably the biggest thing that happened to me is like in that first 7 days when I'm going through withdrawal, I wasn't like super cooperative. Like you're doing, like when you're in treatment, you're doing like classes and stuff like 10 hours a day, so I wasn't super cooperative. Like I wanted just people to leave me alone. Like I had to keep getting up and using the restroom because, your body's just, but probably like day 4 or 5. And I hadn't, granted I hadn't not been under some sort of chemical for probably more than a day or two for maybe 2.5 years, so at like day 5, like the kind of that clarity is coming back and my counselor like pulls me into his room, which I'm still very good friends with my counselor today. Like we couldn't hang out for like the longest time because it's like patient confidentiality, but I still talk to him. He's got like a farm and he's got a pond and stuff. We go out there and hang out and stuff. So, but anyway, pulls me into his office and he's like, there's only 2 options, and I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's no option C, and I was like, okay. And he's like, either you start doing the stuff in here and you just learn, even if you learn one thing while you're in here, and go and get sober, or you're going to go out there and die. And he broke it down to me like that simple, like it was like, you're going to die. Like, you're not going to see 23 because I'm 22 at the time. You're not going to see 23 years old. Like I'd already had a few like close calls, like, and so he's just like, he already knew my story, obviously, and all that. So he's like, you're not going to make it, So if you learn one thing and then leave here and do, you know, ABC and do these things that I'm going to need you to do, or you're going to die, you know? And I was like, holy crap, you know? And he's like, I know you're only 5 days sober, but the other thing he told me is, he's like, I know you're only 5 days sober, but in the whole scheme of things, like, what's 30 days, you know? He's like, in 30 days, is Budweiser going to go out of business? Is the dope man all of a sudden going to, like, not be there, you know? He's like, just give me 30 days. Just give me 1 month, you know, and I promise you your life will change, you know? And I was like, you know, and I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, dude, like 30 days, like I can like scratch my eyeballs and manage that, you know? And I did, you know, and from there it was like, okay, well, let's do 60, let's do 90, let's do a year, you know? And because that, when he told me, like, is Budweiser ever gonna go out of business, I'm like, oh, well, no. So he's like, in 10 years you can still have a drink if that's your choice, you know? And I was just like, oh, dude, I mean, yeah, fair enough, you know, like, and so, and then probably the other thing besides my counselor was you know, I was in there with, like, you know, I don't remember how many other people, maybe 20 other people or whatever. And I come in there and I'm like, I'm the worst person you've ever seen. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's, you know, I've done more of this, more of that than anybody. And I get in there and I realize, like, holy crap, I'm not. You know, there's people that are 50 years old in there and they're just now trying to figure it out, you know? And I'm like, holy crap, I'm 22 years old. If I can just get this now, you know, I'll never have to worry about, you know, what my life is going to be like, or if I'm going to live or die or any of that, you know? And I was like, I'm not the worst person. I didn't do more than that person. Or I didn't drink more than that person. Or I didn't party harder than that person, you know? Like, so I was just like, dude, I can do this, you know? So yeah, like, transitioning out, like, when I got out, I planted my 2 feet in the ground. I was like, these are the things I need to do to just stay sober. And you know, mentally you're kind of like not all there, or you're still like trying to come back. But now you have like when I went to treatment, I had one tool in my toolbox, and that was a hammer. You know what I mean? So like, all of a sudden now, like, I have more tools in my toolbox to lean on, to talk to. I'm realizing now, like, I can talk to my parents about, like, the way I'm feeling, because you build this huge thing up, like I talked before, like, you can't talk to anybody about the way you're feeling. And now I can, like, tell them, you know, I can tell, like, hey, like, I'm not feeling so good today. Can we just, like, go hang out, you know, with my mom or whatever? Can we just go watch a movie? Like, I just need somebody to just, like, hang out and kind of, like, just keep me accountable and watch me or whatever. And she was always like, of course, you know what I mean? No problem. So those type of things is kind of how I learned, like, you know, to talk to people in treatment. And you're kind of like, you know, it's funny because I've already kind of talked about, but you're kind of like breaking out of that shell again, you know, all over again. That social anxiety is kind of starting to leave me again, where I feel like I can talk to people and I'm not like bullying mentally myself, you know? So, you know, I'm kind of getting that to that point again, you know? So.
I love it, man. Now, before we kind of get into the strength training and the powerlifting and all of that awesome stuff, I just want to give you an opportunity, Zach. You know, for like we kind of mentioned earlier, that person maybe that's literally sitting in treatment right now, listening to this, or somebody that's gonna, you know, come along, you know, this podcast episode 10 years down the road and has struggled with the drugs and the alcohol or some sort of addiction. Like, what do you want to share with those people? Maybe the person that's like, you know, in that place of they're addicted to something and they know it, and they know that they need to get help. Like, what do you kind of want to share with those people that are in those places in their lives today?
Yeah, man. You can always talk to people, you know. The biggest thing that I've learned is people generally aren't going to judge you for most things, you know. I could tell people the most outlandish story of you know, things that I've done when I'm drinking or getting high, and they're going to be like, holy crap, you're crazy. But at the same time, they're just going to be like, you know, you need help, you know. And but in your head, when you're sitting in that treatment center and you've got this huge thing built up, like this huge wall that you're just not gonna, like, I just can't tell people these things. They're gonna judge me. They're gonna feel this certain type of way. Man, they don't, you know. Like, I've told people things, and a lot of times now, like, I tell people stories and it's just funny, you know, like, and it wasn't always that way, but I couldn't tell these stories and feel like, oh man, that was funny. You know, like I feel like you're gonna judge me, and people don't, man. Like if you're going through something and you're in the middle of something, just talk to somebody. Just tell somebody that hey man, I'm feeling this kind of way, and I understand. Like there's that saying, the phone is 500 pounds when you really need to say something to somebody, you know. But I promise you, if you just pick that 500-pound phone up and tell somebody, all of a sudden that phone feels like nothing. You know, that phone call can save your life, you know, or that conversation you have with somebody can save your life, literally.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that and touching on that part of your story. Now, I'm excited because, you know, I've had Wes Keith on the podcast and several other people that are connected with 22nd Street Barbell on the podcast. I have a lot of respect for Wes and that community, that family down there, that gym in Des Moines. I came across you, I think, just on the 22nd Street Barbell Instagram after you'd squatted your 1,003 pounds here, I think, just a few weeks ago. So I'm excited to kind of get into the strength training, the powerlifting. So just talk about, you mentioned once you got out of treatment, you kind of got into working out. So, and I think you kind of mentioned something about going to the gym when you were in high school for sports. So is that kind of where the lifting weights started because of sports in high school? And then let's talk about kind of your introduction to working out post rehab. And then how did you kind of get into connected with 22nd Street Barbell, get into powerlifting? Let's just unpack all of the powerlifting stuff.
Sure. So when I got out of treatment, what my counselor that I had mentioned, one of his like requirements for me was to try to find a place to work out, find a gym, because he just knew that I was kind of a shaker and a mover, and if I'm not putting my mind and my, you know, my body somewhere, that it's going to be somewhere bad, you know, idle hands kind of thing. So I get out and I literally don't have any money. I got a sack full of clothes, you know, and obviously I'm staying at my parents' house, but it's not like they're just going to hand me a bunch of money, like, you know, and I don't have a job. So I do get a job and I go to Planet Fitness first because it's like $10 a month, you know, and that lasted for like all the month before they literally like served me like a thing, you know. And they're like, yeah, so you set because I set that lunk alarm off, you know, and I'm like, man, what are the rules? Like, you know, I'd walk in there with like a gallon of water and they're like, oh, sir, you know, you have to have like just a regular bottle or whatever, you know. And I'm just like, what? So I leave. So I'm like, all right, dude, whatever, you know. My mom, she works at Wellmark. So they just got done with that Wellmark Y. So her gym membership at the Wellmark Y downtown Des Moines was free. So I started working out there, and you know, I met another guy that worked out at 22nd Street. He just kind of worked out there because he worked downtown, but he worked at 22nd Street. He's like, hey man, you got to go check this gym out and all this. And because I'm dude, at like 240, the first time I climbed on the bar, I'm like already like, you know, 450, 500 pound, you know, squatter, like, you know, I can bench whatever. And I'm already like strong again, you know, I'm already like maybe, you know, 3-4 months sober. Like I've already put on a lot of this body weight. And so I'm like, all right, like, I'm not going to be, so I work out the Y for a little while and like, I keep like ruining their bars over there. So like effectively, like I got like, kind of like, they're like, okay, you can't like squat here anymore. You know, like I'm squatting like 600 pounds with the wraps or whatever. And like I unrack all the weights and the bar is still doing like the rainbow thing, you know? And I'm just like, they're like, yeah, we can work out here. Just, you know, you're gonna have to just do reps or whatever. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm gonna go check out this 22nd Street, but I still don't have like any money. I'm like, you know, trying to pay for the records of my past. Like I'm, you know, pay for a car and all this stuff. And go in there and talk to Wes and you know, he was like, dude, I told him what was going on. I told him, you know, kind of my story, you know, and he's like, bro, just like work out here until you get on your 2 feet, you know, sign this waiver, like don't get hurt kind of deal, you know? And I was like, really, dude? And he's like, yeah, man, just, you know, obviously don't take, he didn't say it, but he's, you know, don't take advantage of it. But like, you know, once you get on your feet, just, you know, so after like 2 months or whatever, like, you know, I fully signed into the gym, but dude, he like just gave me a chance and an opportunity. And at the time I was not the strongest guy in there. I wasn't like, mentally, the strongest guy either, as far as, I'm still like in that social kind of thing. And it was in the basement at Merle Hay, but dude, he just like gave me a chance. And so I like started working out. The first meet I ever did, I squat 700 pounds. I benched 500, pulled 7, and I just knew like I had, kind of this gift to be strong or whatever, so, yeah, that's kind of like, there's um, I don't think a lot of people know, like, that, just when you're just honest with people and you talk to people, like people are just going to like give you a chance. You know what I mean? Kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and he just gave me a chance to like kind of work out and do my thing, and so, yeah.
How did just kind of like, you said you started off at Planet Fitness, and then, you went down to the downtown Des Moines Y, and then eventually found yourself at 22nd Street Barbell. But how did just like that kind of that natural strength that you have, and just getting into a routine of working out, how did that kind of help you continue to move forward with the sobriety and just kind of like moving forward with your life? Because obviously, working out, strength training, bodybuilding, powerlifting, all of that stuff, like I've heard it again and again and again, how, lifting weights has literally saved people's lives, or powerlifting has saved people's lives, or bodybuilding has saved people's lives. Like, what has that done for you, just like as a human being, and, in terms of you progressing forward in your life, Zach?
Yeah. So especially like early, even now still, it's always better for me to be kind of busy, like 10 hours a day. So, I got a job and, I'm working 8 hours a day, and then I go to the gym for 3. And by the time I get home, it's, I go to a meeting. Like I was doing like meetings every day for like, first 2 years of my sobriety. But, it's really just kind of like a place to go, like a place to like, cause I didn't have any friends either, like I didn't know anybody. Like all the friends I have today, I met either at the gym or in AA, so like I didn't know anybody. Like the only people I knew were junkies and drug addicts, and another saying that my counselor always said, your playmates and your play places, are you going to just go back to hanging out with like, drug addicts and hanging out at the dope house, or, so that's why he kind of, find a gym and all that stuff. So yeah, I find a gym and so like mentally you're like staying busy, but also like you're seeing your body change. Like every time you squat like 10 more pounds or bench 10 more pounds or whatever, and you're like getting big, you're getting strong again mentally. You're like, oh man, like this is great, because I look at myself in the mirror at 190 pounds, and you're just like, you can see your ribs, and like, my eyes are all sunk in the back of my head. But now I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh dude, you can move a mountain, and that like that mental aspect of the bodybuilding, of CrossFit, of all the strength sports. People wouldn't do it if some sort of mental side of it, you liked what's happening to yourself, whether it be in the mirror or whether it be on the bar, and so, those type of things kind of like keep you kind of like hooked or addicted. And yeah, it's a lot of work. And you do need time off and all that, but so, I think that side of it, like you're building your body, and I'm just as addicted to that now as I am, maybe not as addicted, but you know what I mean? I'm addicted to working out and going to the gym. The other day, a guy that I always work out with, he's preparing for the July 10th meet. I went to the gym just to like hang out with him and spot it. Like I didn't even like, it was like my day off. Like I did like a couple leg curls or whatever, but like, just mentally, like I'm in the zone. I'm in my space, like at the gym, and I don't have to think about like what's going on in the world or what's going on in my head.
For sure. Talk to me about the community and the family of 22nd Street Barbell, because again, Wes has been on and he kind of talked about the whole 22nd Street Barbell beginnings. And I think it was in the back of Gold's Gym there on 22nd Street in West Des Moines. And then, in this crazy kind of warehouse building. And then I went to the location where it was in Merle Hay Mall. And I still think that was like the most hardcore, awesome gym that I've ever personally seen myself. And then now kind of having the location where they're at now. But, again, like I've had Abby Mork on the podcast as well. She's a huge part of that community, that family. But everybody that's kind of a part of 22nd Street Barbell, that's been a part of it for a long time, they talk about this family, they talk about the community. So for you, Zach, how has that specific community and family of 22nd Street Barbell, again, just kind of like with the powerlifting thing, how has that kind of been impactful in your life? And like, what does that mean to you to be a part of that community and actually be an athlete that represents 22nd Street Barbell?
Sure. So, yeah, man, when I first started working out, it was down there at the gym, or at the Merle Hay. And it was like hardcore. I mean, the lights are dim and there's, you're breathing chalk dust everywhere, and everybody's like spotting everybody, and it's great, and I loved it, and it kind of got me hooked, and you start to know these people, and you go and get food after, or their food court was right up top too. So, and all that stuff. And that kind of like created that bond, that family aspect. But what really changed is moving to that new location. And a lot of people were like, yeah, but we're like kind of losing like our like hardcoreness or whatever. But like for me, it's always going to be like a hardcore powerlifting gym. But it allowed people that maybe were like intimidated to go by a dumpster and like walk into this like grungy like hallway, and just you could hear the loud music before you're even down the stairs, and all these people yelling and chalk everywhere. It almost allowed people that were almost like too intimidated, or that would like get to the door and you're like, oh yeah, no, this gym ain't for me. It allowed those people to be like, oh, it's just like a normal walk up like a gym, and it's not like, yeah, there's still loud music, and yeah, there's chalk in the air, but you see a lot more people walk in and they're like, hey, I've like never done a curl in my life, you know what I mean, or I've never done a squat, or I've never done a this, and to me, like what like Abby is doing on the women's side is exactly what like powerlifting, and not necessarily just powerlifting, but lifting in general should be. It's bringing people in, and what the kind of the new gym and what that new space has done has allowed like new people to come in and be like, oh man, like I want to try this, or like I'm mentally like in a shell, like I'm mentally like afraid of people, or like social anxiety, or whatever, and then you see these people come in and they're like flourishing, and all of a sudden they're talking to like 3-4 people in between sets, and they're like going and getting lunch after they work out, or we had like a cleaning day at the gym, and dude, we had like 50 people there like cleaning, and a lot of them I'd never even like seen, or they were like morning members or whatever, and you can tell they're not all in there like slap each other on the back with the chalk and the yelling and that powerlifting type. They're just in there. They want to work out, and they just want to have a good time and come in with their friends and meet new people, or whatever their situation they're in life is. But I feel like switching to that new gym like allowed for that. It allowed for the women's barbell thing. It allowed for new people to like kind of come over and explore like what it really means to just like have a brotherhood, or like a family kind of aspect. Like, hey, what's your name? Like, do you need spot? Do you need that? Like, hey, we're going to Chick-fil-A or whatever after, like, you want to come with, type of deal. And I see all kinds of people coming at the gym, and like they've never squat before, and they never this and never that. And it's weird talking about it, but like I squat 1,000 pounds. So I got all these people like coming up to me like, oh man, this is awesome, blah, blah, and all this. And then there's like the one guy in the corner, like, holy shit, like that guy squats 1,000 pounds, and and then I'm just like, hey, how's it going? And I stick my hand out to those people, and like, what are you working on today? Like, I just try to be like, that gym, that atmosphere, like working through like Alcoholics Anonymous has like allowed me to just stay like as humble as I possibly can, and realizing like I'm nobody without these people at this gym, without the people that, you know, I learned sobriety from, you know.
Absolutely. And, you know, just as you're talking about that, you know, it's so cool to see how life unfolds sometimes, because like literally you said earlier, like Wes Keith, you know, he extended a hand to you, right? He gave you an opportunity, and now you are basically having that opportunity to extend a hand to other people, right? And it's like you talked about it earlier, where it's like, you know, when you were kind of got realized like, hey, like I'm good at football, or you know, whatever. It's like that can go two ways. Like I can, you know, build up my ego and be arrogant, be a prick or whatever, or I can take the other route and just be humble and try to help others out and build other people up. Because you said it, Zach, earlier, like, you know, once you kind of realize like you have something in life, you know, there's two ways that you can take that. Like you can just like focus on yourself and just, you know, kind of like build for yourself, or you can bring other people along and you can extend that hand and give other people's opportunities and be a part of your life and be a part of your gift, and try to help other people find their gifts. Right. So I just think it's so cool how Wes kind of gave you that opportunity. 22nd Street Barbell gave you that opportunity. And now because you've stayed focused and you're staying the course and living one day at a time in your life, you're taking care of your own personal business, then you're kind of able to do that for other people. Right. So with that being said, and then I want to just kind of touch on the nuts and bolts of the training and talk about the 1,003-pound squat, but just Wes, like I know I was reading a little bit on your Instagram that kind of like a couple posts that you put after you squatted that 1,003-pound squat, but you gave a shout out to Wes, and I think thanked him for the programming and stuff. But just overall, outside of just that initial opportunity that Wes gave you to kind of you know, find yourself at 22nd Street Barbell, what has he kind of meant to you in terms of mentorship and just being that positive influence in your life?
Yeah. So here's the thing with, you know, I came into the gym, he gave me opportunity, but like Wes has done that for so many people, like, you know, and I watch this guy and a lot of people, like, you know, he's created this like atmosphere, this aura of, you know, what is 22nd Street Barbell. But you know what the best thing about Wes is like, there's like 22nd Street Barbell, and then there's like Wes. He's never been like, I am 22nd Street Barbell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like the guy over here, like, hey, you need help with the bars or this or that, you know, like, you know, extend a hand, like come on in and work out, like, you know, do the week or whatever. You know, he's never been like, you know, I'm that guy. Like I walk out of the office and I'm just like, everybody better just like come and shake my hand. And you know, it's like literally like he'll just yell at me from across the gym, what up, bro? You know, like when he walks out of the office, like it's always like, you know, super cool and super chill. And he treats myself, he treats, you know, some of the other like stronger guys at the gym or whatever, the same way as he would treat, you know, a brand new person. You know, what's funny is Wes has, I think, more young athletes, like as far as like, you know, high school down than, you know, he probably has like, you know, high school up athletes. This guy works with kids and their parents, and like, you know, what it means to just like be able to work out and be stronger and you know, a lot of that humbleness and stuff like that I've learned. I've kind of like got osmosis from him, and you know, his ability to just be like, you know, like I'm just like Wes Keith, you know, like I'm not like this whole thing, like I'm not like 22nd Street Barbell, you know, like what 22nd Street Barbell is way bigger than like, you know, maybe he is, or you know, I don't know how I'm trying to say it, but you know what I mean, as far as,
Sure.
you know, just staying humble and he almost like stays out of the limelight kind of deal, you know, and just helps from the background. And that's kind of like how he helps like tons of other people. And that being said, like kind of Abby's the same way, you know, you're never going to like walk into the gym and hear, you know, and have Abby be stuck up to anybody. You know, she's always constantly flipping me shit and flipping me crap and like giving me like, just giving me a hard time and just, you know, she's just like one of the people, you know, and she just like kind of trains as many people as she can handle, and they kind of just let 22nd Street be this like big thing, and they both don't. Wes doesn't put his name on it as far as that kind of goes. So.
Yep, and I love it, man, and I'm thankful I had the opportunity to have Wes and Abby, on the podcast, because just for myself, I own a gym, and I'm definitely into the strength training game and train a lot of youth, and it's awesome for me to see that there's other people out there that they're just living their life, they're living a humble life, but they're impacting people's lives, they're serving others, and it's just great because we live in kind of a culture, right, with the social media where it's like, look at me. And you have all these, people that are trainers and coaches, like, basically they're pimping their clients and their athletes through social media so they can get more. And it's just like, I don't know, man, like, it's kind of sick if you really look deep into it. So I'm thankful for Wes and Abby, and it's just cool. Obviously I'm up here in Northwest Iowa, 3 hours away, but the couple of times that I've been able to go to 22nd Street Barbell, it's just a cool atmosphere, you know what I mean? And it's encouraging for me because I learn from just observing that gym through social media. I learn things from Wes and some other people that are a part of that family and community. So it's awesome. It's so cool that it's in Iowa, right? Because sometimes I think Iowa and the Midwest is kind of forgotten about, but it's cool to see people killing it from Iowa and from the Midwest. So Zach, just to kind of like wrap our conversation up, I want to touch on just kind of like the specifics of your training, and let's just kind of like, again, let's keep it simple because I think both of us are simple guys. But let's just talk about the training leading up to the 1,003-pound squat. And I know that it was a full powerlifting meet. I know you deadlifted. I know you benched. From your social media, you said, those other 2 lifts didn't go as planned, but I think you probably put so much into that squat, and that was kind of your main focus, and you accomplished that. But so let's just talk about kind of that training block leading up to this last meet where you accomplished the 1,003-pound squat. And before we get into that, or maybe at some point, just share with myself and the listeners, when did you kind of set the goal for yourself? Like, hey, I want to squat 1,000 pounds. Where did that come in? And then let's talk about the training block leading up to it, and let's talk about the actual meet and the accomplishment.
Sure. So like I said, the first meet I ever did, I squat 700 pounds. I think the next one I did was like 800, 804 or something. And then I did a meet, and then I did one meet where I hit like 931. And, after the meet, I'm like just kind of talking to Wes, and I was like, man, you think like I could squat 1,000 pounds? Like, what's it going to take to squat 1,000 pounds, And he's like, well, we're just going to have to literally just, have like kind of an off season and then work it all back, so the goal is 1,003, like what's it going to, week backwards, like what's it going to take to squat 1,000? Well, like COVID happened. So then that was like a whole nother thing. And then, so it's kind of been like a 2-year deal of like, okay, like, training to hit that 1,003, but she kind of like had a longer off season than we planned. I planned on trying to hit it at the end of 2020, and then all the meets got canceled. So we came back and we were like, okay, gym's open, and kind of, so the same deal. We ramped it up. It was maybe like 16 weeks out. You just kind of like hit, a little bit of lighter stuff, more reps. And then you just kind of like, once we got to about like 7-8 weeks out, we were just like, I took like a deload of like 9 weeks. And then we were like, work every single number back. Like, what do I need to hit in the gym? What do all my like, my reps and sets up to need to look like, and we just mapped it all the way out. And with the style of training that him and I kind of do, we always kind of like leave things like, so say I want to hit like 940 on a certain day, and I go in and 900 is just like, feels like, a dump truck. You're like, just just adjust the plan, rest up, maybe it's your food, hydration, whatever. And then the next week you just come in and do that, so thankfully every number that that we wrote down, I hit, and every single one of them looked great. Every single one of them moved well. So it turns into, you're hitting like sets of 8 down to sets of 5, down to sets of 3, down to, we did like a pyramid up. So I would do like 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 3 singles. And that's kind of how the whole block looked. And then there would be like back downs or whatever. But that's kind of like how the whole block looked as far as, the squat goes. It was just ended up being like a lot of singles, a lot of just getting weight on my back, a lot of like just feeling it out. And then on the nutrition side, I knew that I was going to have to push my body weight up, like I've talked about. So I went from about, 360 to like 380, 375-ish at my biggest. And then I was like almost too big. So then I like brought it back down. I weighed 370 the day of the meet. So, I think I think a lot of people, like when they're I think a lot of people don't realize when they're doing a meet prep, if you have the goal to squat 500 pounds, you don't need to squat 500 in your prep. I hit 970 was my biggest in my prep. And then we kind of adjusted, like from that 970, we were like, okay, is 1,000 going to be there? Or is it going to be, 980 or 9, if 970 was just an absolute grinder, then we might have to adjust on the day of it, what my opener and my second and third is going to be, obviously, luckily I crushed 970. So we're like, oh yeah, 1,000 threes there, a week off, all the whole bit, So it kind of worked out, just everything that we kind of discussed. And it was literally like week by week too. So we had a whole plan, but like week in, week out, I'd like check in with him. I'd be like, okay, what do you think? And not only Wes, but like the guy that wraps my knees, Greg, even more so than maybe Wes, he was there on every single training session that I ever did. And he was, and Luke too. There was another guy, Luke, but Greg would be like, okay, you do this and you adjust that, your walkout, the whole thing. And he was like, my technical kind of support on like what, because, Wes is a busy guy and that's, it's totally awesome. So like I have this whole team around me, which is like another, just a family aspect of 22nd Street. I have all these people that are like, okay, the bar was a little too high or the hands, the whole thing, so it's another like, great thing about like that prep was, I had a small army of people literally that would show up to help me load, to help me do this, to help me wrap my knees, to make sure like, okay, we're going to, this is the 1,000 free, this is the one, so.
Excellent. So kind of like on, the actual meet day, what was kind of like your mindset, or what is your mindset going into a meet day? Because like, I mean, there's a lot of different things that can go right, and there's a lot of different things that can go wrong, especially when you're competing in powerlifting. So for you, like, and even maybe your mindset, on training days when you've got a big day in the gym, like where is your mindset at during training? And then what was your mindset, or what is your mindset on meet day, Zach?
Yeah, so like the week up to it, you obviously I'm playing this 1,000 in my head like a million times, But meet day or like 2 days out, I'm done. I'm done thinking about it. I'm over it. Like I don't want to work myself up. There was like a squat early in the prep where it was like 900 or whatever, and I was supposed to hit 920 or whatever, and I hit it, and it wasn't all that fast. And the West was kind of like, man, like, we're going to be done for the day or what? And I just like looked at it and I was like, dude, that was like 20%. You know what I mean? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, I only like amped myself up like 20%. So then I was like, load 920 on there. And then I was like, boom, gave it 100%, smoked it. And he was like, oh yeah, okay. So like, those 2 days out, like I'm kind of like trying to save like that adrenaline. Like I've been like powerlifting so long that I can kind of like work yourself into like, okay, what it needs, like mental aspect of what it needs to what I need to do to squat 1,000 pounds. And I think so many lifters, like 2-3 days out, are like just so like obsessed and like, okay, this. They don't just take time to just relax, bring your cortisol levels down, like just hang out, like quit thinking about it. Like all the preparation you could possibly do is done, for your lifts, So that's what I do. I take an ice bath, I relax and just chill out, hang out, play video games or whatever, chill with the dogs. I don't even think about it. I'm done. Done thinking about it. It's all over. I've already squatted 1,000 pounds. So that way, the day of the meet, all the way up until I start warming up, I'm not warm ups. I'm like, because I'm a super heavyweight, so I'm like eating a McDonald's breakfast sandwich, like weighing in, you know what I mean? And that type of deal. I'm just totally relaxed, totally chilled all the way up until I start warming up. Okay, now it's go time. Now it's time to like turn it on, get after it, So
cool. Now, there's a lot of different kind of like categories within powerlifting. So you did this 1,003-pound squat. Is it considered a raw? Because what did you have? Like you had a belt, knee wraps. Was there anything else, or what is kind of the category that it falls under?
Yeah, so I did it single ply. So I did it in a single ply squat suit.
Okay.
Yeah. So yep, and that allows you to have knee wraps, the belt, the wrist wrap.
Okay, cool. Now, what's kind of as we kind of close out our conversation, Zach? What's kind of the future goal, or what are you kind of working towards next in terms of powerlifting?
So next year, I'm probably going to do. I would like to do the Olympia, which would be a single ply only meet, and that'll probably be. I think this year it's in Orlando in October, but I'm just not going to be able to have the turnaround. Like mentally, I just don't want to go through another prep like that. So I talked to the guy. So 2022, I think I'm going to hop back in it. I'm going to, go for a huge total, another 1,000-pound squat. Obviously shoot for more. But I think following out the rest of the year, probably do like a strongman contest in October, get in a little better shape and just like kind of have some fun for the rest of the year. Because the prep was pretty brutal because I have a very physical job too. I'm a construction worker. So, to squat like that and then go to work the next day, it's brutal, so.
I love it though, man. Like that's like, I don't know, like that's just the raw and the reality of life. Like here's some guy that squats 1,000 pounds the next day you're at work doing construction, man. Like that's, to me, like that's obviously real life, but that's like hardcore. You know what I mean? It's not like, you're just lounging around and like, getting sponsorship money or whatever. Like you're living life. You're going full steam ahead. I love that, man. So let me see here. So that's kind of the future goal. Now I want to kind of give you an opportunity. I know just from obviously your Instagram, your social media, that you have a significant other. I know you guys just went on vacation, but just talk about your significant other. Like, what does she mean to you, and how has she just really, impacted your life?
Sure. So we've talked about sobriety, and I'll be kind of like quick, but I was never good to women, in my drinking and using. Obviously, it's impossible to have any relationship, let alone a significant other. So when I got sober, and I started working with a sponsor that had a lot of years, I asked a guy that had a wonderful marriage, and I knew his wife pretty well, and all that. So when I started dating my wife now, it was just like, what kind of man do I want to be? Like, do I just want to be that old guy that just like treats everybody, like just to be used, or do I want to be, try to be the best man I can be? And obviously I'm not perfect. I'm still learning, but it's been great. Like I love her to death, and she's really kind of been my rock, and she always kind of like has supported me through the lifting and always kind of like been there for me. So I take like 3-4 hours at the gym, and she never come home. Like, I never come home and she's like, where you been? She's always just like, how'd your squats go or whatever, and You know, and it may sound weird, but you know, she like lives her life outside of our relationship, and then I live my life, and she's also an AA, so she like does her thing, and then I do my thing, and it like works out perfect for us. We're not like, or we try not to be up each other's butts all the time as far as that kind of goes. You know, obviously no relationship is perfect, but you know, I try to be the best man I can be. And you know, so yeah, it's been great. You know, we've been together for quite a few years, and yeah.
Cool. So quickly, just in terms of marriage, like what's kind of one thing that you've learned, you know, from marriage that you know is just kind of like you know, spills over into the rest of your life? Because like obviously, like you said, you know, your parents got a divorce and you you know, experienced that, and that you said earlier that's kind of like a normal thing, and it is kind of in our culture now. But you know, just wanting to be the you know, the best man, individual that you want to be, and pursuing that, like what is something that marriage has taught you, or what's a takeaway that you feel like marriage has taught you that kind of like again spills over into the rest of your life, Zach?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, you know, probably the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, um, you know, is who who are you when the doors are closed? You know, who, like it's easy to go out, it's easy to go to the gym, it's easy to go here and act like, you know, everything's perfect and it's all kosher, and then come home and me just be like a total dick, or you know, or whatever the situation, you know, like. So it really is taking that aspect of like me and my life, of the humbleness of trying to be, you know, just the best person I can be with all these individuals at the gym, and bringing that home as well, you know, letting it be, you know, literally just the whole entire aspect of my life, not just, you know, like the 1 hour, you know, or you know, who are you the rest of the 24 hours when someone's not looking, kind of deal, you know.
For sure. Very well put, man. All right, so Zach, we're just gonna kind of close this out. I do want to give you an opportunity if you have any final words or anything. We've definitely had a very thorough conversation. We've touched on a lot of things, but maybe there's something else that you kind of want to leave the listeners with, or something you want to share that we didn't touch on. So go ahead. If there's anything else you kind of want to share, man, whatever's on your heart, please share it with us.
Yeah. You know, we've kind of already talked about it before a little bit, but you know, don't ever be afraid to reach out in life. You know, it's I went too long without being able to just talk to people and tell people how I feel, and they can get tough, and you can build this wall, and you can just get used to living like that, and it's a hard way to live, you know. Also, just like shout out to obviously all my 22nd Street family, and all those people, and you know, it's been fun, man. I really appreciate you asking me to do this, you know.
Absolutely, Zach. It's a you know, a side passion project of mine, man, and I just truly just enjoy listening to people's stories, because when you share your story, I share my story. When we as human beings share our stories, man, you never know how that's going to positively impact people's lives, and especially just your story, man. Some of the things you've been through, and where you're at today, what you're accomplishing today through powerlifting. It's a privilege for me to have all my guests come on. If somebody wants to reach out to you, maybe you're that person that they want to reach out to about some stuff, or if people kind of want to follow along your powerlifting journey, or they want to connect with 22nd Street Barbell if they're in the Des Moines area, where can people find you, Zach? Where can people find 22nd Street Barbell?
Yeah, you can. I mean, obviously, Instagram, uh, steam engine underscore 22BB, but 22nd Street Barbell page. You know, you can always message me. I'm always willing to read messages and reach out and talk to people. And if anybody's going through anything, or just want to talk shop, talk powerlifting, you know, I'm always game for that too. I got a lot of people that are, spread out across the country that I don't even know, that I talk to on a regular basis. I got a buddy in Chicago. I call him a buddy. I've never actually met him, and he does the same job I do. So, and he's a powerlifter as well. And we always, talk shop and send each other pictures of our job and stuff like that. So, it's always fun. I always like it. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out and talk, that's always cool with me, man.
Excellent, man. All right, Zach. Well, again, I just appreciate you sharing your story today on the 127 Fit podcast. I appreciate you just taking some time out of your schedule just to come on and chop it up with me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's awesome.
For sure. So 127 Fit podcast listeners, once again, I just want to thank you so very much for your listening ears. They're always greatly appreciated. If you would like to find out more about the guests that I'm bringing onto the podcast, or if you'd like to find out more about myself, you can find all of that information on Instagram at 127fit. Facebook is Quentin Vars. If you guys would do me a huge favor, as you have found great value in this episode of the 127 Fit podcast, if you would go to the iTunes, Apple Podcast app, or wherever you're listening to this podcast episode, and please leave a 5-star written review. Also, subscribe to the podcast. That would be awesome. That's how more people find the podcast, more people listen, and then more people, through the stories that are being shared on the podcast, are positively impacted. One other favor I would ask of all of you listening to this episode of the podcast, if you would take this episode and share it on your social media story platforms, that would be great, especially on Instagram. Tag myself at 127fit. Again, that's how more people are going to find the podcast. More people are going to listen to Zach's episode and be positively impacted. If you think you would be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance you think would be a great guest or guest for the 127 Fit podcast, you can send me an email or pass this email along. The email is 127fit@gmail.com. And then, per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time, until next time, I'll catch you guys later.